The darkest prison secrets, gangs, power, survival in America's deadliest jails. Behind the walls of America's deadliest prisons lies a hidden world, a world ruled not by the guards but by the gangs, where power is traded in blood, silence is survival, and every day is a battle to stay alive. Tonight we step inside that world, exposing the darkest secrets the prison system doesn't want you to know. From Rikers Island to ADX Florence, from Pelican Bay to Angola, these are not just prisons. They are kingdoms. Kingdoms where gangs hold the throne, officers play both sides, and the price of betrayal is death. The hidden empires, the gatekeepers. When most people picture prison, they imagine guards in control. But the truth? In many of America's deadliest facilities, the guards are outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and, sometimes, on the payroll of the gangs themselves. These aren't isolated incidents. They are part of a larger network of power that thrives on fear, silence, and control. The gangs within. Prisons have become headquarters for some of the most powerful gangs in America. The Bloods, the Crips, the Aryan Brotherhood, the Mexican Mafia, MS-13. Their reach doesn't stop at the walls. From behind bars, they run drug empires, order hits, and control territories on the streets. Inmates may be locked down, but their influence is not. Survival of the fittest. For the newcomer, survival begins on day one. The question isn't if you'll choose a side, it's which side will choose you. In prison, gangs are protection, power, and sometimes the only way to stay alive. Reject them, and you risk being labeled a target. Accept them, and you may be signing away your freedom within freedom. The code of silence. In this underground world, silence is survival. Snitches get stitches isn't just a phrase, it's law. And breaking that law often means death carried out in the shadows of overcrowded tiers where guards rarely see and even more rarely intervene. The price of power. Inside these walls, every ounce of power comes at a cost. A pack of cigarettes, a smuggled phone, a corrupt officer, and sometimes your life. Because in America's deadliest jails, power is never free, and those who want it must be willing to pay in blood. Tonight, we'll peel back layer after layer of this hidden empire, from the secret economy of contraband to the violent codes of loyalty, to the officers who blur the line between law and crime. Welcome to the darkest prison secrets. Contraband, the secret economy, the real currency. In prison, money means nothing. Dollars can't buy you safety, food, or favors. But contraband? That's the real currency. From cigarettes to cell phones, from homemade alcohol to smuggled drugs. Inside, every item carries a value far beyond what it's worth on the streets. The economy of contraband keeps the prison alive and keeps gangs in power, smuggling the goods. Contraband doesn't just appear out of thin air. It slips through the cracks, sometimes literally. Visitors, mail, even corrupt staff provide steady pipelines of forbidden goods. In some cases, drones drop packages straight into exercise yards under the cover of night. Once inside, these items become lifelines and bargaining chips. Cigarettes, phones, blades. Some contraband is for comfort, like tobacco. Others, like phones, are for power. A single smartphone can be worth thousands behind bars, giving gangs the ability to orchestrate drug deals, order hits, and control territories hundreds of miles away. And then there are weapons, shanks, razor blades, makeshift knives. These are not for trade. They are for survival. The hustlers of the yard. Contraband fuels hustlers, prison entrepreneurs who can build mini empires without ever leaving their cells. Some inmates specialize in smuggling, others in selling, and some in protection, ensuring business runs smoothly under the watchful eyes of gangs. Because no hustle runs without approval, every trade, every deal, every movement owes a cut to those at the top, the cost of getting caught. But contraband isn't just profit, it's risk. Getting caught can mean solitary confinement, lost privileges, or becoming a marked man. Because if you lose a gang's product, you don't just owe the system, you owe them. And inside that debt could cost your life. The circle of corruption. The contraband economy doesn't just corrupt inmates, it corrupts staff. Guards, underpaid and overworked, find temptation hard to resist. Some make more smuggling cigarettes or phones in a week than they do in a month's paycheck. And once a guard takes that first step, the gangs own them. They're no longer officers of the law. They're assets of the underworld. The system can't stop it. Prison officials try to fight the flow. They use scanners, dogs, lockdowns, and surprise raids. But no matter how tight the grip, contraband finds a way in. Because as long as there are walls to keep men in, there will be cracks for contraband to slip through. Contraband isn't just about comfort, it's about control. It feeds the gangs, fuels the violence, and gives power to those willing to risk everything. But as dangerous as contraband may be, it's only part of the story. The true power lies in something deeper, darker, and far more dangerous than cigarettes or cell phones. The codes of blood, gang loyalty, betrayal, the oath. In the world behind bars, loyalty is sacred. Every gang operates under a code, an unbreakable oath that binds members for life. These aren't casual promises, they're blood vows. Once you're in, the only way out is in a body bag. This isn't just a saying, it's the law of survival in America's deadliest prisons. The structure of power. Gangs inside prison mirror armies. At the top, the shot callers, the generals who command respect and make decisions that ripple across the yard and into the streets. Beneath them, lieutenants and soldiers carry out orders. Every move, every attack, every hit, sanctioned by the hierarchy. Disobey an order, and you risk more than punishment. You risk execution. The code of silence. The first and most important rule, silence. No snitching, no talking, no cooperating with officers. To break the code of silence is to betray not just the gang, but the entire prison underworld, and betrayal is unforgivable. Those who break the code rarely live long enough to regret it. Tests of loyalty. Before an inmate can rise in the ranks, loyalty must be proven. Sometimes it's a beating, other times a hit. Recruits are forced to spill blood, either their own or someone else's, to prove their commitment to the brotherhood. Once you've shed blood for the gang, you're bound for life. The price of betrayal. Betrayal doesn't always come from snitching. Sometimes it's crossing lines, stealing from the gang, refusing orders, or showing weakness. And in prison, weakness is blood in the water. Punishment is swift, brutal, and designed to send a message. Betrayal will not be tolerated. Officers in the crossfire. Sometimes betrayal isn't inmate against inmate. Sometimes it's officers caught between sides, guards who play favorites, or worse, choose loyalty to one gang over another, can quickly become targets themselves. In a system fueled by blood and silence, even those sworn to enforce the law aren't safe from the code. The brotherhood beyond bars. The code doesn't stop at the walls. Gang loyalty stretches to the streets. Families, communities, even international networks are bound to the same rules. Orders given in prison can trigger murders, riots, and wars miles away. Inside, outside, it's one world, connected by blood. No way out. For many inmates, the code that once promised protection becomes a life sentence inside a life sentence. There's no retirement, no escape. Even those who serve their time and walk free often find the outside world no safer, because the oath they swore inside follows them forever. The codes of loyalty and betrayal make prisons more than correctional facilities. They make them kingdoms ruled by blood. But if blood is the law, then violence is the currency. And in America's deadliest jails, that violence often erupts into chaos, leaving scars that echo far beyond prison walls. Riots, power struggles, prison wars. When pressure explodes, prison is a pressure cooker. Overcrowding, brutality, hunger, gangs. Eventually, that pressure explodes. And when it does, America's deadliest jails turn into war zones. These aren't random outbursts. They are carefully timed uprisings, sometimes sparked by survival, sometimes by power grabs, and sometimes by pure rage, the spark. Riots often begin with something small, a fight over commissary, a guard disrespecting an inmate, a gang rivalry that spills over in the yard. But in a place where tension simmers every day, the smallest spark can ignite the largest blaze. The gangs take over. Once a riot begins, gangs move fast. They don't just fight, they take control. Doors are jammed, fires are lit, and entire cell blocks fall under inmate command. In those moments, the prison belongs not to the state, but to the gangs. Violence without boundaries. In the chaos of a riot, violence knows no boundaries. Rivals settle old scores. Snitches are silenced. Even officers are attacked, hostages in their own workplace. For those caught inside, survival becomes a minute-by-minute struggle. The legendary uprisings. Some uprisings become infamous. Attica, 1971, 39 dead after 4 days of rebellion. New Mexico, 1980, 33 killed in one of the bloodiest riots in U.S. history. Lucasville, 1993, 11 days of terror, hostages, and gang power struggles. Each riot left behind scars on the system, on the survivors, and on the very walls of the prisons themselves. The system fights back. When riots erupt, correctional systems unleash their most powerful weapon, force. Tactical squads storm the tiers. Tear gas chokes the air, rubber bullets rain down, and sometimes live ammunition is used to restore order. But restoring control comes with a price: death, injuries, and more hatred simmering beneath the surface, waiting for the next explosion. Power shifts in the aftermath. After every riot, the balance of power shifts. Gangs rise or fall, leaders emerge, or are eliminated. Sometimes entire factions are wiped out, only for new ones to take their place. Officials respond with lockdowns, transfers, and supermax prisons, designed to keep inmates in total isolation. But even behind the thickest walls, the seeds of rebellion never die. A war without end. Riots are not accidents. They are the natural outcome of a system built on fear, violence, and control. A war without end, fought not just with fists and blades, but with power, silence, and survival. From the outside, prisons look like places of order, but inside, riots reveal the truth. That control is fragile, power is contested, and every day behind bars is one spark away from all-out war. The officer's dilemma: corruption, power, survival. The thin gray line. Correctional officers are supposed to be the wall between chaos and control, but inside America's deadliest prisons, the line is thin and often gray. For many officers, survival means more than following the rules. It means navigating a world where gangs, money, and corruption lurk in every shadow. Underpaid, overpowered, low pay, long hours, dangerous conditions. Many officers walk into the job already at a disadvantage. Some face pressure not just from the system, but from the gangs who run it from the inside. The temptation to cross the line grows with every shift. The first step into corruption. It often begins with something small: a cigarette pack, a candy bar, a little cash on the side. But once an officer says yes, they're owned. Gangs know weakness, and they never let go. What begins as survival quickly becomes betrayal of the badge. Double lives. Some officers live double lives. By day, they enforce rules. By night, they're facilitators of the prison underworld. Phones, drugs, even weapons, all moved under the protection of those sworn to prevent them. And when they're caught, the entire system pays the price, caught between gangs. Other times, corruption isn't about money. It's about survival. Some officers are forced to choose sides between rival gangs. The wrong choice can mean death for them or their families. In prison, even the enforcers are never safe. Brutality as control. But not all officers are corrupted by money. Some are consumed by power. Brutality becomes their weapon. Beatings, pepper spray, psychological warfare, tools used to keep inmates in line. For some, it's not about justice. It's about domination. Yet every act of brutality feeds the cycle of violence, creating more hatred, more riots, more chaos. The whistleblowers. Not every officer bends. Some refuse the pressure. A few even blow the whistle, exposing corruption, reporting abuse, risking their careers, and sometimes their lives. In a world built on silence, speaking out makes them targets for both gangs and their fellow officers. The price they pay. For officers, survival is never guaranteed. Corruption, violence, betrayal, it's a constant gamble. Some pay with their careers, others with their freedom, and some with their lives. The officer's dilemma proves that inside America's deadliest prisons, no one is immune to the darkness. Guards, like inmates, are trapped in a cycle of fear, corruption, and survival. And while officers struggle with their choices, inmates struggle with something even greater, the crushing weight of isolation, solitary confinement, the prison within the prison, the box. They call it the box, the hole, the shoe, special housing unit. Solitary confinement goes by many names, but they all mean the same thing: absolute isolation. Inmates spend 22 to 24 hours a day inside cells the size of a bathroom. No contact, no conversation, no escape. The sound of silence. At first it's the silence, no voices, no human touch, just the sound of your own breathing. Days blur into nights, minutes stretch into hours, and slowly the silence begins to talk back. For many, solitary isn't punishment. It's psychological torture, why they're sent there. Solitary is used for the most dangerous inmates, those who stab, riot, or kill. But it's also used for punishment, talking back, refusing orders. Even mental illness can land an inmate in the box, where their condition only gets worse. Days turn into years. Solitary isn't always days or weeks. Some inmates spend years, even decades inside, locked down 23 hours a day with 1 hour in a small cage outside, staring at the sky like a stranger. 43 years alone, imagine that. Breaking the mind. Studies show solitary confinement causes extreme psychological damage, depression, hallucinations, paranoia. Some inmates cut themselves just to feel something. Others attempt the ultimate escape, suicide. Solitary doesn't just confine the body, it destroys the mind. The gang connection. Officials believe isolation cuts off gang leaders from their soldiers. But even in solitary, power finds a way. Messages travel through letters, hidden codes, even through corrupt staff. Some of America's most feared gang bosses still run entire empires from inside the box. A prison within a prison. Supermax prisons like ADX Florence were designed to take solitary to the extreme. Inmates live in near total isolation, sometimes for life. They eat alone, exercise alone, live alone. A prison within a prison. For many, it's a slow death sentence, without the chair, without the needle. The debate. Across the nation, solitary confinement faces growing controversy. Critics call it torture. Defenders call it necessary to control violence. The debate rages on. Is solitary protection bait or punishment? Safety or cruelty? Life after the box. For those who leave solitary, the scars remain. Some never recover, their minds fractured, their trust shattered, their ability to live in society destroyed. Because once you've lived in silence for years, the noise of the world can be unbearable. Solitary confinement was meant to be a tool of control. Instead, it has become a prison within a prison, a place where men lose not just their freedom, but their very selves. And yet, in the darkest corners of solitary, the gangs still thrive. Because even in total isolation, the reach of power never ends. Life, death in the yard, the arena, the prison yard. To the untrained eye, it looks like a place of fresh air, a break from the cage. But make no mistake, this is no playground. This is the arena. The yard is where reputations are made, alliances are tested, and lives are lost. The watchful eyes. Step onto the yard, and every eye is on you. Gangs study your movements. Predators size up the weak. The wrong glance, the wrong step, can set off violence that echoes across the entire facility, claiming territory. The yard is divided, carved up like a battlefield. The Mexican mafia on one side, the Aryan Brotherhood on another, black gangs, Latino gangs, independent cliques, all controlling their zones. Every space has an owner. Cross the line without permission, and you may not walk back. Violence in broad daylight. When violence erupts in the yard, it's fast, brutal, and often deadly. Attacks are planned, executed, and finished before officers can respond. Inmates swarm to block sightlines, giving their brothers just enough time to spill blood and disappear into the crowd. The politics of survival. The yard runs on politics. Who you sit with, who you play ball with, who you share a meal with. Every action is judged, every alliance noted. In prison, neutrality is weakness, and weakness is fatal. The economy of the yard. The yard isn't just for recreation, it's the marketplace. Deals are made, debts are collected, contraband is exchanged, and just like the outside world, the economy is built on risk, profit, and blood. Guard intervention. When fights break out, the guards move in. Sirens, pepper spray, rubber bullets, but by the time order is restored, the damage is already done. Someone is bleeding, someone is broken, and someone has just been marked for revenge. The ritual of the yard. For many, the yard is routine: push-ups, basketball, laps around the tee, rack. But even in routine, there's ritual. Every action has meaning. Every move signals status. And every day under the sun, the cycle of survival continues when the yard turns red. And sometimes the yard itself becomes the battlefield. Riots turn open space into killing fields, bodies left in the dirt, blood staining the ground, a reminder that in prison, even under the open sky, there is no freedom. The yard never forgets. The yard never forgets. Every look, every word, every debt. Tomorrow it may be just another day of push-ups and basketball. But beneath the surface, the tension builds until the next explosion. The prison yard is more than open air. It's a battlefield of politics, power, and survival, where the price of a mistake can be your life. And while the yard exposes violence in broad daylight, the darkest secrets are still hidden in the shadows of the prison system itself. Women behind bars, forgotten, exploited, fighting to survive. The forgotten population. When people picture prison, they often imagine men. But women behind bars face a world just as dark, sometimes darker. Forgotten by society, they fight not just gangs and violence, but exploitation, abuse, and neglect, survival and exploitation. For women, survival often comes at a different cost. Exploitation, manipulation, and sexual abuse by staff create scars that last long after release. Many are mothers fighting battles inside while their children grow up outside. Sisterhood resistance. But inside, sisterhood also emerges. Alliances built on protection, survival, and resistance against a system stacked against them. For women, survival isn't just about violence, it's about holding on to humanity. The stories of women behind bars are rarely told, but they reveal a truth. America's deadliest jails don't just swallow men. They crush women too, often silently, often forgotten. America's Supermax, the Alcatraz of the Rockies, ADX Florence. Built in 1994, ADX Florence is known as the most secure prison in America. A place designed to control the uncontrollable, the Alcatraz of the Rockies. For the nation's most dangerous inmates, this is the end of the line. Life in total isolation. Here, men live in near total isolation. 23 hours locked in, 1 hour outside in a concrete pit. No physical contact, no sunlight, no second chances. The monsters inside. ADX houses the worst of the worst. Terrorists, drug lords, serial killers, and the most feared gang leaders. Men who run empires from inside tiny cells. Men whose names send shivers across the nation. If solitary is the prison within the prison, then ADX is the final cage, the place where the system buries its darkest secrets alive. The cost of survival. The toll on the mind. Survival inside America's deadliest prisons comes at a cost. For inmates, trauma, scars, and years of violence. For officers, corruption, fear, and sometimes death. For families, broken bonds that never heal. Cycles that never end. The prison doesn't end at the gates. Many inmates walk out, but they never truly leave. The cycles of gangs, violence, and silence follow them into freedom, trapping them in invisible chains. The hidden empire. Prisons were meant to correct. Instead, they've become empires, ruled by gangs, fueled by contraband, protected by silence. Behind every locked door lies a kingdom of secrets the outside world rarely sees, the final truth. The darkest prison secrets aren't just about gangs or violence. They're about survival, about human beings trapped in a system where power means life, silence means safety, and freedom is an illusion. This is the world behind bars, a world the system created, but one that no one can truly control. If you found this story eye-opening, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more untold prison stories, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Every voice matters, and every story deserves to be heard